Hari Hari, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hari Hari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hari Hari, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hari Hari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hari Hari, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hari Hari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hari Hari, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hari Hari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hari Hari, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hari Hari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hari Hari, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hari Hari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hari Hari, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hari Hari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hari Hari, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hari Hari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Ah, Krishna. Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I ask myself, say, why can't I just jump in? You know? It's like, I guess I'm just in that mode of hearing and watching and observing and perceiving more than just jumping in and doing. I'm kind of like removed from the material world, and I'm removed from the spiritual world. I'm in this funny space. Krishna. Oh man. Hare Krishna, I can't jump in. It's like being a ghost or something. It's weird. Totally weird. Hare Krishna. Not much I can do about it. Just keep chanting and hearing and trying to engage in service and trying to learn how to associate with the devotees who are serving Krishna very actively, and just kind of hover. Krishna! Oh God. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. And I got to go to some bhajans yesterday afternoon. So sweet. There was just the ladies, very sweetly singing, so nicely. Maha Mantra, a few different melodies, and then some of the Vaishnava songs of the Vaishnavacharyas. Very sweet. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And I'm just in that mode of taking in, observing, and I feel like a new devotee. You know, someone who just like comes to the temple for the first time and is trying to follow everything. Krishna, oh my God. I've been practicing more or less for 50 years. Why do I feel like this? Oh God. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Just trying to get everything in focus in terms of Krishna consciousness. Like I had to make some calls this morning, just official calls, business calls about they have to come out here and do an inspection and stuff like that. So I had to call the company. And, people that are working in these companies, they have a certain demeanor that they put out when they're working in the company because they're part of that company, and if it's somebody that answers the phone, they answer the phone a certain way as a representative of the company. And they're doing their service like that too, so they have to be employed so they can go home, but when they go home they don't talk like that to their family, or when they with their friends they don't act like that when they're with their friends. It's a demeanor they put on when they're part of that institution. Hopefully they don't always have that demeanor when they're part of the institution, talking on the phone, very official in business, and hopefully they don't always have that they leave that at the company, and when they go home, they're mommy or daddy or whoever they are at home. And it's a little different atmosphere, part that they play. I think that is what is going on in the spiritual movement, is there is an institution, and when someone is acting in an official role within the institution, ISKCON, then they act in that role. They act as the president, or they act as the GBC, or they act however they act, for whatever part they're playing, head of the kitchen, head pujari, because they're playing a part within an institution. But there's more to them than that. And I think that's part of what's having to get sorted out about gurus. That's what, like, an institutional guru is. How can there be such a thing? A guru is representative of God. He's not controlled by an institution. He doesn't play a part that's dictated to by an institution, like, the head of the sales department or the CEO of an institution. So that's what's having to get sorted out. How that works. It's very new to the world. An institution that has gurus. How does that work? Kṛṣṇa. Oh yeah, wow. There's a lot going on in this movement. Oh my God, that's so. I'm just in the observing mode here. I'm just like totally overwhelmed, like all the time. I guess I can get away with it because I'm older now. If I was younger, it'd be kind of strange to just be observing wherever you go. But when you're older, it's like, and your body's older, like, it doesn't seem like people expect you to, jump through hoops or something, or take on big services, and they're just kind of like, can I help you, up the stairs? So it leaves room for that. And that is definitely what's going on. Kṛṣṇa, Chaitanya. I really wanted to video the bhajans and the kirtans yesterday, but in the past when I've done that, one young devotee complained to me and said, look, when you're standing there with the camera and we're trying to get absorbed in a certain mood, it really kind of spoils things. Can you do it so we don't know you're doing it? I've had a couple people that said like that. And so I couldn't get video, but they didn't know I had the sound recording going. So I got the sound, and then I put some nice, what I felt was appropriate pictures on the video, and I'm uploading it to YouTube. There's a couple of them. It's a very, very sweet association. And they didn't know I was recording it. Hey, Hare Kṛṣṇa. Hare Kṛṣṇa. So as not to disturb the intimate mood. I'm just going to read a little something here about Kṛṣṇa. In the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's a summary study by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And this is Narada visits the different homes of Lord Kṛṣṇa. Oh, before I launch into this, in those bhajans, like, these kinds of things are probably just common knowledge to the other devotees. But since I'm really slow and like kind of stowaway in the baggage department here, these are like big realizations for me. But stuff like if I tried to share it with them, they'd probably look at me like, you just saw that? It's like when I first went to the temple in 1971, and I asked if I could stay and study there and serve there so that I could understand what was going on, because I was attracted to the environment, to the devotees, to the prasadam, to the chanting. But when I would look at the altar, I couldn't make out what was on the altar. I couldn't focus in on the forms of Radha and Kṛṣṇa. I just saw lights and flowers and like it was very colorful. But I didn't really focus in on what was the forms on the altar. It's a male and female form, decorated very beautifully, Radha and Kṛṣṇa. And I couldn't focus in on it. It actually took me, I don't know how many weeks. And then one day, I saw the deity forms. And I was very excited. I ran around telling all the devotees, you see what's on the altar? And they just looked at me like, whoa, you know. So I'm still like that, you know. I'm here in this movement, at least nearby, within earshot, and I'm having these realizations, and it's probably things most of the devotees serving within the Hare Krishna movement have known for years. It's not news to them. To me, it's news. So, in this bhajan yesterday, the devotees were singing so sweetly, and I was just trying to hear and follow along as best I could. I could see that they were approaching Krishna in the holy names and the devotional songs in the same way they approach the deities in the temple. Yeah. And that was a big realization for me. Because when I chant, I'm just calling out, help, 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 you know. Help, 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 help. I'm just calling out, help, help, where are you? Help, help. Okay, when I chant. And when they're chanting, they're approaching the chanting in the holy names as a deity. Just like they would approach the deities. And they're meditating on the forms of the Lord, when they're chanting. Hare Krishna, Lance. Hare Bol. Hare Krishna. Oh boy. So for me, that was like a big realization. But they were doing it. They were approaching the holy names just like they approached the deities in the temple when they were chanting. Just slow. It's very, very slow. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. But no matter how slow you are, there's always somebody else slower. There's always somebody faster, and there's always somebody slower. And then there's always at least a few trundling along together. Yeah, slowly late. Hare Krishna, me too. I didn't start so late. It's like I get these like opportunities to associate with devotees, and I do the best I can in the situations. And then I have to recuperate because I have to process a lot of stuff that goes on. I'm recuperating from the bhajans yesterday at one of the devotees' houses. I put it on YouTube. I recorded it. They didn't know I was recording it because I didn't want to disturb. It was a very sweet, intimate, and somebody there taking a video, kind of spoiled it. So I didn't get video, but I had the recording playing. It was like the kirtan was bugged, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I've been watching for between running errands. Yeah. Krishna, Haribo. This is the 7th day. I've been fasting, and that's a whole nother thing, the watermelon thing. And so this is the 7th day. The second watermelon is almost gone. Thank you, Krishna. And I'll probably be able to, eat some like regular type foods tomorrow. But it's really powerful stuff, this fasting. It's, it's like getting ready for death, If you're not eating, the body is like, thinks it's dying, So it's really powerful stuff. Maharaj Parikshit on the bank of the Ganges, because he knew he had 7 days. Interesting. This is my 7th day. He had 7 days, and he was fasting and hearing about Krishna. It's a nice practice. I'm going to try to do it every month, at least in the summer. I don't know about watermelon in the winter. That'd be like really austere. But at least during the summer months, try to do this every month. Saves money too. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. You don't have to cook. There's no dishes. Boy, it's really lazy stuff. But it really does put you in another space, Wow. Hare Krishna. Krishna. Okay, so Narada visits the different homes of Lord Krishna. So Narada just visited the palace of Rukmini, Dwarkadish, and he had some realizations there. Spoke to Kṛṣṇa, glorified Kṛṣṇa, and Narada prayed that, no, look, this was, the part here is really pretty wonderful. Lord Kṛṣṇa showed how to receive a saintly person. He got up, he offered a special seat to the saintly person, he bowed down, he touched their feet, and then he spoke kind words, sweet words, and then he asked Narada, what can I do in your service to the saintly person? Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, showing how to receive the saint. What can I do in your service? Narada's, understands what Krishna is doing. He's teaching by his own example. And then Narada says he doesn't want anything except to be always able and allowed to remember the Lord's lotus feet. In whatever situation. And Prabhupada reinforces that. He says that's the prayer of a pure devotee. You can practice like that. I'm not a pure devotee, but you practice. I could practice like that. In any condition of life. And that's how Lord Chaitanya prays. Lord Chaitanya prays, doesn't matter if I take birth again in a different species of life. I just don't want to forget your lotus feet in any condition of life. That's actually, there's a lot of safety in that prayer. And it really takes expectations of what I'm going to get as a reward for my service. It kind of eliminates all of that. And, the other thing I was getting out of these bhajans is that's the goal of the chanting, is to perfect the chanting. If Krishna is Kṛṣṇa, then the chanting is there to perfect our relationship with Kṛṣṇa. It was really, really fun to have association of those devotees. I couldn't really enter in like they were, but I was there with my, little recording device, and now I'm kind of digesting. It was like a big transcendental feast, and now I'm, it's the day after the night before. I'm kind of digesting. Hare Kṛṣṇa. Yeah. Kṛṣṇa is Kṛṣṇa. Now, the deity service is given alongside the mantra to help. It's not like the mantra is given alongside the deity they go together, but the actual sacrifice for the age is the mantra. Deity worship was in a previous age. It wasn't this age, it was a previous age. But there's a remnant of it to help. They go side by side. Pancharatriki Vidhi and Bhagavat Vidhi. The worship of the deity is incomplete without the chanting of Hare Kṛṣṇa. It's just idol worship. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa. But chanting Hare Kṛṣṇa, even without engaging directly in deity worship, is perfect and complete by itself. Hare Kṛṣṇa. We see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he wasn't engaged so much in deity worship. He would visit the temples and he would go into an ecstatic trance, ecstatic mode, things would happen. But he wasn't teaching deity worship. He wasn't teaching that. That's really tied in, from what I can see, with structuring society and varnashram for reestablishing religious principles, temple worship, public places where people can come and get classes and instruction. At least the way Prabhupada carried it forward for expanding Krishna consciousness movement. And not to be minimized. The deity is Krishna. The holy name is Krishna. So, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Wow. You got Hare Krishna here, you got Hare Krishna there, you got Krishna here, Krishna there, Krishna everywhere, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, holy name, Hare Krishna, deity, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, goodness. Hare Krishna. All right, let's hear from Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. So now he's left the palace of Rukmini and Krishna. He says, after departing from the palace of Rukmini, Narada wanted to see the activities of Lord Krishna's internal potency, Yogamaya. Thus, he entered the palace of another queen. There he saw Lord Krishna engaged in playing chess, along with his dear wife and Uddhava. The Lord immediately got up from his seat and invited Narada Muni to sit on his personal seat. The Lord again worshipped him with as much paraphernalia for reception as he had in the palace of Rukmini. It doesn't say which queen this is. It's another palace with another queen, his dear wife and Uddhava. Maybe we'll find out who this queen is. After worshipping him properly, Lord Krishna acted as if he did not know what had happened in the palace of Rukmini. Therefore he told Narada, "My dear sage, when your holiness comes here, you are full in yourself. Although we are householders and are always in need, you do not require anyone's help because you are self-satisfied. Under the circumstances, what reception can we offer you? And what can we possibly give you? Yet, since your holiness is a Brahmin, it is our duty to offer you something as far as possible. Therefore, I beg your pleasure to order me. What can I do for you?" Same thing as before. How can I serve you? Now he says, what can I do for you? This is fantastic. It's like a time warp, you know. He just went through it, a deja vu. So now Narada knew everything about the pastimes of the Lord. So without any further discussion, he simply left the palace silently, in great astonishment over the Lord's activities. He then entered another palace. This time Narada-ji saw that Lord Krishna was engaged as an affectionate father petting his small children. From there he entered another palace and saw Lord Krishna preparing to take his bath. In this way, Saint Narada entered each and every one of the 16,000 residential palaces of the queens of Lord Krishna. In each and every one of them, he found Krishna engaged in different ways. Krishna. In one palace he found Kṛṣṇa engaged in offering oblations to the sacrificial fire and performing ritualistic ceremonies of the Vedas as enjoined for householders. In another palace, Kṛṣṇa was found performing Panchayagna sacrifice, which is compulsory for a householder. This yagna is also known as Panchasunya. Knowingly or unknowingly, everyone, specifically the householder, is committing 5 kinds of sinful activities. When we receive water from a pitcher, we kill many germs that are in it. Similarly, when we use a grinding machine or take foodstuff, we kill many germs. When sweeping a floor or igniting a fire, we kill many germs. And when we walk on the street, we kill many ants and other insects, consciously or unconsciously. In all our different activities, we're killing. Therefore, it is incumbent upon every householder to perform the Panchasunya sacrifice to rid himself of the reactions to such sinful activities. Krishna Chaitanya, Krishna Chaitanya, Krishna Chaitanya. There are so many palaces here in Alachua. And I mean that sincerely. Some of the devotees are very, very opulent. The house that I went to yesterday was extremely opulent. The temple room was immaculate and gorgeously decorated. The whole house was immaculate. It was a palace, a small palace. And on the way there, we have a friend, a really wonderful friend, very, very, helping me in so many ways, practical ways. Really wonderful friend. It was also fairly opulent. They just built a really large house with a temple room that's like high dome ceiling, you know, Hare Krishna. And on the way there, they know where everybody lives because there's a lot of devotees in this area. They were pointing out these really big houses with lots of land, and they were all devotees. And this is where so-and-so Das and his wife live, and this is where so-and-so Das and his wife live, and Hare Krishna. So a lot of palaces here. I got to visit one yesterday. Kṛṣṇa, I think if I see like that, I'll be okay. Otherwise, I'm just gonna like be in really bad shape. You know, I think that's how I can fit in this community, is try to get this mood of Narada, you know, get this mood of Narada Muni, and go there in appreciation of how Krishna's, what's going on there in Krishna consciousness. I think that's the path for me. I don't see anything else opening up. Yeah, I have a house, but it's an old house. The guy built it himself. None of the corners are square. All the doors are like kind of weird. I built the porch enclosure myself. It looks like early Appalachia. I mean, there's land and some trees growing on it, but it's not in the same class as these other devotees who are, they're pretty opulent, you know. Kṛṣṇa. It's like one step up from government housing or something. So if I keep this Narada Muni visiting these different palaces and appreciating how Krishna is being served there, then I think I'll be all right. Maybe. I don't know what else to do. So, Krishna is showing this path. Narada Muni is showing this. He's showing the path of a saintly person. So, I can follow the footsteps of Narada Muni, maybe. I don't know. Kṛṣṇa. In one place he found Krishna engaged in different oblations to the sacrificial fire and performing ritualistic ceremonies as enjoined for householders. In another palace, Krishna was found performing Panchayagna sacrifice, which is okay, we just read that. That's because the householders, either knowingly or unknowingly, they're killing germs and bugs and just by breathing. In one palace, Lord Krishna was found engaged in feeding brahmanas after performing ritualistic yagnas. In another palace, Narada found Krishna engaged in silently chanting the Gayatri mantra, and in a third he found him practicing fighting with a sword and shield. In some palaces, Lord Krishna was found riding on horses or elephants or chariots and wandering hither and thither. Elsewhere, he was found lying down on his bedstead taking rest. And somewhere else he was found sitting in his chair, being praised by the prayers of the different devotees. In some of the palaces he was found consulting with ministers like Uddhava and others on important matters of business. In one palace he was found surrounded by many young society girls, enjoying in a swimming pool. In another palace he was found society girls are, it's a nice way of saying prostitutes. Society girls. It's a nice way of saying prostitutes. He was found surrounded by many young society girls, enjoying in a swimming pool. In another palace he was found engaged in giving well-decorated cows in charity to the brahmanas. In another palace he was found hearing the narrations of the Puranas or histories such as the Mahabharata, which are supplementary literatures for disseminating Vedic knowledge to common people, by narrating important instances in the history of the universe. Somewhere, Lord Krishna was found enjoying the company of a particular wife by exchanging joking words with her. Somewhere else, he was found engaged, along with his wife, in religious ritualistic functions. Since it is necessary for householders to increase their financial assets for various expenditures, Krishna was found somewhere engaged in matters of economic development. Somewhere else he was found enjoying family life according to the regulative principles of the Shastras. Hare Krishna. What does that mean? Enjoying family life according to the regulative principles of the Shastras. I think that refers to begetting children. So Narada, that's what I think. That's what I think. Prabhupada, in a very intellectual, almost with some little bit of sarcasm and irony, maybe a little bit of sense of humor in there, is found enjoying family life according to the regulative principles of the Shastras. I think that's what's going on there. In one place, he was found sitting in meditations as if he were concentrating his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is beyond the material universes. Meditation, as recommended in authorized scripture, is meant for concentrating one's mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu. Lord Kṛṣṇa is himself the original Vishnu, but because he played the part of a human being, he taught us definitely by his personal behavior what is meant by meditation. Somewhere, Lord Kṛṣṇa was found satisfying elderly superiors by supplying them things which they needed. Somewhere else, Naradaji found that Lord Kṛṣṇa was engaged in discussing topics of fighting, and somewhere else in making peace with enemies. Somewhere Lord Kṛṣṇa was found discussing the ultimate auspicious activity for the entire human society with his elder brother, Lord Balaram. Narada saw Lord Kṛṣṇa engaged in getting his sons and daughters married with suitable brides and bridegrooms in due course of time, and the marriage ceremonies were performed with great pomp. So the 16,108 palaces, there's a lot going on simultaneously. In one palace he was found bidding farewell to his daughters. In another he was found receiving a daughter-in-law. People throughout the whole city were astonished to see such pomp and ceremonies. Now I got a question. How did the ordinary citizens, of course any citizen of Dwarka is not going to be ordinary, but how were they able to accommodate that in this city there were 16,000 palaces, and Kṛṣṇa was simultaneously in each palace with 16,000 different queens and 16,000 different family situations, and it said later on that each queen had 10 sons, and those 10 sons had 10 sons, and it eventually accumulated to billions of people. How did the guy that grows the corn and the guy that makes the jewelry, I mean, how did they accommodate this? Because it says, people throughout the whole city were astonished to see such pomp and ceremonies. It's all going on simultaneously. Yeah, I guess they would be astonished. Kṛṣṇa. Somewhere, the Lord was seen engaged in performing different types of sacrifices to satisfy the demigods, who are only his qualitative expansions. Somewhere he was seen engaged in public welfare activities, establishing deep wells for water supply, resting houses and gardens for unknown guests, and great monasteries and temples for saintly persons. But how far away are we, residents of Kali Yuga, from access to the pastimes of the Lord, from this spiritual world descended onto the earth 5,000 years ago? How far away are we? And how amazing that we're now headed in that direction. These are some of the duties enjoined in the Vedas for householders. The duties were engaged in public welfare activities, establishing deep wells for water, rest houses and gardens for unknown guests, and great monasteries and temples for saintly persons. These are some of the duties enjoined in the Vedas for householders, for fulfillment of their material desires. Somewhere, Kṛṣṇa was found as a Kshatriya king engaged in hunting animals in the forest and riding on very beautiful Sindhi horses. According to Vedic regulations, Kshatriyas were allowed to kill prescribed animals on certain occasions, either to maintain peace in the forests, because there were sages meditating in the forest, or to offer animals in a sacrificial fire. Kshatriyas are allowed to practice this killing art because they have to kill their enemies mercilessly to maintain peace in society. In one situation, the great sage Narada saw Lord Kṛṣṇa, the Supreme Personality of Godhead and Master of mystic powers, acting as a spy by changing his usual dress in order to understand the motives of different citizens in the city and within the palaces. Did Lord Ramachandra do that also? Is that how he heard the citizens complaining about Sita, that she wasn't pure because she'd been touched by Ravan? Did he also do that? I don't know. Anyway, here, definitely Kṛṣṇa does this. Saint Narada saw all these activities of the Lord, who is the supersoul of all living entities, but who played the role of an ordinary human being in order to manifest the activities of his internal potency. This is an external display of the internal potency. Bhaktisiddhanta talks about that. This internal potency is eternal and is always manifest in the spiritual sky. When Kṛṣṇa manifests within the material universe, it's not material, but it's only manifest here for a little while, but it's always manifest. It's eternal. It's always manifest in the spiritual world. But Kṛṣṇa manifests the activities of the internal potency within the material world. It's not touched by the material world. It's like manifests. He was smiling within himself and began to address the Lord as follows. Who, my dear Lord, so who is Narada talking to here? He's talking to Kṛṣṇa, but it doesn't appear that he is talking to any one of the Krishna's manifest in these palaces. It appears that he says he's talking, he was smiling within himself, and Prabhupada points out that Kṛṣṇa is the Supersoul, so it appears that he's talking Supersoul form. He was smiling within himself and began to address the Lord as follows. My dear Lord of all mystic powers, object of the meditation of great mystics, the extent of your mystic power is certainly inconceivable even to mystics like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. But, by your mercy, because of my being always engaged, transcendental loving service of your lotus feet, your Lordship has very kindly revealed to me the actions of your internal potency. My dear Lord, you are worshipable by all, and demigods and predominating deities of all 14 planetary systems are completely aware of your transcendental fame. Now, please, give me your blessings so that I may be able to travel all over the universe singing of your transcendental activities. So when Narada, this great saintly person, visited the palace of Rukmini, chief queen, first palace he visited, and he was received by Kṛṣṇa, he had darshan, and offered prayers, beautiful prayers to Kṛṣṇa, and then Kṛṣṇa glorified the Saint Narada also, and asked, what can I do for you? And Narada, his first prayer was that, may I, wherever I go, whatever situation I find myself in, may I always be able Please grant me that. Allow me to remember and think of your lotus feet. That was his first prayer. Now, having visited 16,108 palaces, his next prayer, now it is showing us the path of a preacher. This is the path of a preacher of Krishna consciousness. Now, Narada, see, that's why it's really important not to commit offenses. Just accept what Krishna is showing you. Don't make value judgments on it. Try to find Krishna in this situation and don't make value judgments. Like, Krishna in a swimming pool with society girls. Oh, you make some value judgment? You're in trouble. Hare Krishna. So now Narada's prayer, after visiting all these palaces, he's been on pilgrimage here. Please give me your blessings that I may be able to travel all over the universes, singing the glories of your transcendental activities. So, what does Krishna say? The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, replied to Narada as follows. My dear Narada, O sage among the demigods, you know that I am the supreme instructor and perfect follower of all regulative principles, as well as the supreme enforcer of such principles. I am therefore personally executing such religious principles in order to teach the whole world how to act. My dear son, it is my desire that you are not to be bewildered by such demonstrations of my internal energy. Hare Krishna, which is something Narada indicated that he understood that early on. But Krishna evidently is making it even more clear not to be confused or bewildered by the demonstrations within the material world, that they are the internal potency. But he's teaching the world how to act by doing it. The Supreme Personality of Godhead was engaged in his so-called household affairs in order to teach people how one can sanctify one's household life, although he may be attached to the imprisonment of material existence. Actually, one is obliged to continue the term of material existence because of household life. Oh, God. Paints this beautiful picture of household life and all these wonderful activities, and Krishna's doing this, and he's offering oblations, he's worshiping the ancestors, he's in bed with his queens, he's in the swimming pool, he's doing all these things, playing with his children. Okay, here we go. Then Krishna says, but my dear son Narada, it is my desire that you not be bewildered by demonstrations like this. The Supreme Personality of Godhead was engaged in his so-called household affairs in order to teach people how to sanctify one's household life, although he may be attached to the imprisonment of material existence. Actually, one is obliged to continue the term of material existence because of household life. But the Lord, being very kind upon householders, demonstrated the path of sanctifying ordinary household life. Because Krishna is the center of all activities, a Krishna-conscious householder's life is transcendental to Vedic injunctions and is automatically sanctified. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thus Narada saw one single Kṛṣṇa living in 16,000 palaces by his plenary expansions. Plenary is an interesting word. Let's see what they have to say about plenary. It's a word you hear a lot, and you hear it mispronounced a lot, like plenary. I've got a friend who says plenary, can't say plenary. Let's see what the dictionary says about plenary. Unqualified. Not that with no quality, not unqualified meaning no qualities, but unqualified meaning how would you say? Unqualified, absolute, not no restrictions. Like you don't have to have qualifications. It's beyond qualification. Beyond material qualifications. Plenary. Hare Kṛṣṇa. Thus Narada saw one single Kṛṣṇa living in 16,000 palaces by his plenary expansions. Due to his inconceivable energy, he was visible in each and every individual queen's palace. Lord Kṛṣṇa has unlimited power, and Narada's astonishment was boundless upon observing again and again the demonstration of Lord Kṛṣṇa's internal energy. Kṛṣṇa in Vraj Lila, in the dancing with the gopis in the conjugal mood, there's a similar type of expanding that he does, where each gopi thinks that she's with Kṛṣṇa, to the exclusion of that she has Kṛṣṇa. Lord Kṛṣṇa behaved by his person, and he acts differently with each one, dancing and embracing. Lord Kṛṣṇa behaved by his personal example as if he were very much attached to the four principles of civilized life, namely religiousness, economic development, sense gratification, and salvation. These four principles of material existence are necessary for the spiritual advancement of human society. And although Lord Kṛṣṇa had no need to do so, he exhibited his household activities so that people might follow in his footsteps for their own interest. Lord Kṛṣṇa satisfied the sage Narada in every way. Narada was very much pleased by seeing the Lord's activities in Dwarka, and thus he departed. In narrating the activities of Lord Kṛṣṇa in Dwarka, Sukadeva Goswami explained to King Parikshit how Lord Kṛṣṇa, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, descends on this material universe by the agency of his internal potency and personally exhibits the principles which, if followed, can lead one to achieve the ultimate goal of life. All the queens in Dwarka, more than 16,000 in number, engaged their feminine, attractive features in the transcendental service of the Lord by smiling and serving, and the Lord was pleased to behave with them exactly as a perfect husband enjoys. Household life. One should know definitely that such pastimes cannot be performed by anyone but Lord Kṛṣṇa. Lord Sri Kṛṣṇa is the original cause of the creation maintenance and dissolution of the whole cosmic manifestation. Anyone who attentively hears the narrations of Lord Krishna's pastimes in Dwarka, or supports a preacher of the Krishna consciousness movement, will certainly find it very easy to traverse the path of liberation and taste the nectar of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. And thus he will be engaged in devotional service. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 68th chapter of Kṛṣṇa. The great sage Narada visits the different homes of Lord Krishna. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Home sweet home. Lance makes a comment. What does he have to say? He says, I'm so thankful of my simple little abode. There's always been a lot of love here. That's the most, and that's what will be remembered. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Simple. Yes. Simple. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Simple living and high thinking is a winning duo. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. You can learn from Narada. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. How to appreciate more complicated situations. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And not feel like, well, I must be doing something wrong because I'm not all complicated. I've got nothing, So, Krishna's dealing with everyone differently in the desires of the devotee. But that first prayer of Narada's to Rukmini Dwarkadish, that whatever situation I'm in, I'm in an opulent situation, or I'm in a poverty-stricken situation, or just a simple abode, whatever situation, he even says, like whatever species of life, that I be allowed to remember your lotus feet. Yeah. Oh, Krishna! Krishna Chaitanya, Sankirtan Yagna, fire of Sankirtan, burning more and more brightly. Sometimes a little spark moves to a new location and starts a big fire. And sometimes the little sparks have to stay near whatever fire they're near so that they don't fizzle out and turn into smoke. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda.